Thank you. You may be seated. A very good morning to you. Mr. Alfonso Rodriguez, Vice Minister of the Ministry of Energy and Mines of the Dominican Republic. Dr. Armstrong Alexis, Deputy Secretary General, CARICOM Secretariat. Verena Blickweed, GIZ Country Director, Caribbean. Mr. Rodnell Sumer, Chief Executive Officer of the CARICOM Development Fund, CDF. Mr. Derek Omar, Chief Executive Officer, CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality. Dr. Cletus Burton, Executive Director, Caribbean Electric Utility Services Corporation, CARILEC. Dr. Ruth Pratap Singh, Associate Vice President, Sustainable Energy, University of Technology, UTEC, Jamaica. Joseph Williams, Head Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Unit, Caribbean Development Bank, CDB. Dr. Devin Gardner, Head of Technical Programs, Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, Ex-Program Manager, Energy, CARICOM Secretariat, CCS. Ambassador Brian Challenger, Advisor to the Minister of Energy, Ministry of Public Utilities, Civil Aviation, Transport and Energy, Antigua and Barbuda. Our partners and representatives of regional organizations, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the TAPSEC closing event celebrating Power Through Partnerships, where we chronicle the collaboration and impacts of the Technical Assistance Program for Sustainable Energy in the Caribbean from 2017 to 2022. My name is Wayne Simmons, your Master of Ceremonies, and for our first half of this event, I will be proceeding over things, which is our technical conference, where we speak on the achievements in policy, finance, and capacity building. To start this morning's proceedings, please welcome the TAPSEC Program Leader, Simon Zellner. But first, a video presentation.
So my name is Simon Zellner. I'm Program Leader of the GIZ-implemented TAPSEC project, the Technical Assistance Program for Sustainable Energy in the Caribbean.
I'm Corinna Tölzer. I work as a Project Development Advisor for the TAPSEC team here in Barbados.
My name is Julia Graus. I am the Financial Manager of the TAPSEC team at GIZ.
My name is Grace Williams. I'm the Communications and Visibility Officer at TAPSEC.
Well, my name is Bernd Garbers. My position is a technical advisor for the project TAPSEC Cliris.
My name is Sparkle Prentice. I'm the Senior Policy, Regulations and Resilience Advisor.
Hello, my name is Sophie Vargas and I'm Junior at GIZ Caribbean for Portfolio and Business Development, where I do also form part of the TAPSEC and Cliris program.
My name is Nibert Blair and I'm the Capacity Building Advisor with the TAPSEC program.
I'm Tioka Dove, Communication and Visibility Advisor for the GIZ-implemented Technical Assistance Program for Sustainable Energy in the Caribbean.
Our regional energy landscape is challenging, and that is the job. The job is to find solutions, to create pathways, to make it happen where it wasn't happening before. And my colleagues are so dedicated to the cause.
It was a fantastic experience for me personally during the last years here in the Caribbean, based in Barbados. It's such a diverse region. It is very interesting, 16 different countries where we have implemented the project. I have gained insights in all the energy markets there, and that was a fantastic experience for me overall.
My experience on the program has been, I think it's been quite enlightening for me. I think being able to provide this type of support and contribute to this type of growth in the region as a young energy professional, I think we all think about being able to play a sort of strategic role and make sure that the effort that we put into the work that we do actually means something for the region. And that's what was so important to me about TAPSEC, because it really provided that opportunity to, roll my sleeves up and really focus on supporting the region as much as possible in a very direct way.
Actually, when we had the team meeting like a month ago, and every component leader was talking about what we achieved, I actually was impressed what like the TAPSEC team of GIZ, but also like together with our partners, what we have actually achieved.
I think we've come quite far in the time we've been here in the Caribbean. We achieved a lot, and this across all the components, like being at the capacity building component where we implemented a lot of trainings even despite the pandemic. The policy component, just for example, we have the CARICOM help desk or the iOS model, or also the finance component where we supported the setup of the project preparation facility of SICRI. So I think we achieved a lot.
As a result of what we have done, we can now better plan that transition financially, on a capacity level, and on a policy standpoint. So yes, the region is definitely better off from a grand or bigger picture. It might appear as a very small incremental change, but it has the potential to create exponential benefits.
In my opinion, TAPSEC has a really positive impact within the Caribbean in the region. It's amazing to see how different institutions have been able to connect together to work together on issues that will deal with us all, right? So we are in different small islands, but we all have to deal with the same issues, especially climate related. So I feel really happy seeing that TAPSEC has helped to establish the framework for hopefully long-lasting results, especially for energy in the Caribbean, to re-energize the Caribbean.
We are hoping really from the GIZ team that this energy planning we're doing here in the Caribbean, that they will use it for the next steps. So that means these plans have to be updated maybe in 4, 5, 6 years. And I'm sure that the SICRI team with the engineers, they can do this update. So that means when a country is coming with a stakeholder in 2, 3 years, hey, well, we have some changes in our country. The demand is higher for the electricity. So the SICRI team is able to change these plans, and this was also a quite big goal for us.
I do think the region is better off because of TAPSEC. And you know, when they think of change and when they think of energy, they may not think of TAPSEC, but they will think of the institutions that TAPSEC has supported. I think that's really, really good because this program also came in and empowered the professionals that were already here. It wasn't a takeover situation. It wasn't like just a random set of policies or initiatives that came together. This was carefully crafted by the professionals of the TAPSEC program for the people of this region. And most of those professionals are from this region. And our partners are also from the region. These institutions are from the region. So it's really amazing. And I think it's a good thing.
The legacy of the work that TAPSEC has engaged in, collaborated on, implemented and supported across board with our various regional institutions, that lives on in the policies of the various countries. That lives on in the reefs that were trained. That lives on in the institutions that now have the increased capacity, in the trainings that were executed, and the professionals that can now deliver new solutions to their organizations, to their utilities, and to their countries. So the legacy of TAPSEC doesn't end in this forum today. It's not what's on paper, it's what lives on in all of these people, in all of these institutions, and in all of us sitting in this room here today.
So, ladies and gentlemen, guten Morgen, buenos dias, good morning. It's really nice to see so many familiar faces for a very long time, the first time for me. So I really like to welcome you here to the TAPSEC closing event. I'd also like to welcome everyone who is connected virtually to our live streaming today. It's really good to be in interaction with you again. Welcome here also to the Barbados. I hope you arrived to Barbados and the Crane Hotel. I hope you arrived all safely and in good spirits now for our closing event. It's a really exciting day for the entire team, for us, as quite a long time of implementation is coming to an end now. Yeah, it's time today to celebrate. We don't often get the chance or take the chance for celebrations. And today is one of those days where we want to celebrate. We want to celebrate the success of the project, and we want to discuss and show what the project has achieved so far and what can be taken even further, can be taken by regional organizations, by national organizations beyond TAPSEC's duration. And that is basically what we will be doing in the first part of our today's conference. Everyone here in the room, and I guess most of the people connected, have been a part of TAPSEC's implementation. Today we will be reflecting on the main initiatives established in each project component, on policy, on capacity building and information, as well as on finance. But we will look more even ahead where TAPSEC's output can support the region beyond the TAPSEC's duration. TAPSEC was a project funded by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, the BMZ, with a significant additional co-financing of 9 million euro from the European Union. And we, obviously, as everyone knows, I think GIZ was implementing the project together with a lot of regional and national entities in CARICOM member states, and of course also the Dominican Republic. The project was implemented in 15 CARIFORUM member states, as I just said, and the TAPSEC team at the same time was based mainly in 4 countries. So we were always distributed across the region, having offices in Guyana, in Barbados, in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as in Dominican Republic. TAPSEC's overall objective was to support the implementation of the CARICOM energy policy and the Caribbean Sustainable Energy Roadmap and Strategy, as well as the national energy policy of the Dominican Republic. I was asked to kick off today's event with an introduction to TAPSEC and its implementation journey through the past 4 years and 9 months. In April 2016, when I arrived here in the region, a few people were already talking about this creature TAPSEC. So it was already around, and I'm very pleased that I was even part in the first preparation phase of the project. In October 2017, all the necessary project documents were completed, and GIZ signed the delegation agreement with the European Union, which was TAPSEC implementation Startschuss or kickoff. And I remember very well then when we had the big project planning meeting with more than 70 participants in Santo Domingo in Dominican Republic, where we worked out the details, what could be done, how can the region be supported, what activities can be implemented to achieve the overall objectives. This was an important milestone for us to bring action and activities into reality. Immediately after agreeing with all partners on the operational plan, we hired the long-term project staff. In the meantime, I was named as TAPSEC program leader, for which I had a lot of respect at the time and excitement as well, of course, because the project was designed to make really a difference in the region and to make a change. In 2019, and when the entire team was hired and we just started to go into the full swing of implementation, we completed most of the large project procurements for the needed external consultants. We made contracts, started broader implementation. Then early 2020, as you're all very aware of, the pandemic came and caused quite a significant interruption also for the project. As we were, as I said, just about to get into full swing of implementation with our own staff, with consultants on the ground in CARIFORUM member states supporting the region and working physically together with the member states, with ministries, with regulators, and with private sector and so on. So this came basically to a brief halt, but we decided then together with the CARICOM Secretariat as well as with the Ministry of Energy and Mines in Dominican Republic that the project should not stop, that the project should not pause. So we put all our efforts in and started immediately with the replanning of the already outlined activities. All our partners were on board for that. We had, as we did the implementation, mainly with 8 key regional institutions together, and also, as I said before, national entities from Dominican Republic. Everyone was on board and reorganized, replanned, and put everything on a modality where we are able to implement the project also mainly virtually, and we continued. Due to the pandemic, the TAPSEC team was temporarily working from up to 6 different countries and 3 different time zones. This was quite challenging, but overall we all supported each other virtually. Even the team members mobilized, or not even, so every team member mobilized unbelievable resources, putting a lot of effort into reorganizing everything, and working sometimes under very isolated circumstances, but always looking forward to make some change in the region, to focus on the activities we are implementing and to get things done at the end. And that is where I'm here today and can really say I'm very pleased that we have achieved a lot, we have met a lot, and that was really due to the team and all our regional institutions, national entities who have supported us, we have supported each other and implemented all the activities. So, end of 2020 then, if we look back a little bit, we were ready to start our virtual implementation then, and we launched a lot of initiatives, and I'd just like to mention and flag a few of our key initiatives the TAPSEC project has supported so far. There are many more, and you will learn of the others also during the panel discussions and maybe in chats here with our team members during coffee breaks or lunch breaks and publications we put out. So, of course, it is we cannot always go into the nitty-gritties, but I think if we go briefly through the components and look at key activities, we will hear more, as I just said, in the panels. The policy component and was working on the establishment and established the CARICOM Policy and Regulations Help Desk. We also supported the grid code in the Dominican Republic that was developed and supported by TAPSEC. The CCRI became operational through TAPSEC support and providing SINS services to CARICOM member states through key functions such as the CARICOM Energy Knowledge Hub, the CEKH, the Project Preparation Facility, PPF, and Integrated Resource and Resilience Planning became a key modality also to collaborate and support CARICOM member states. Trainings were executed and the regional apprenticeship program was launched, all in the capacity building and informations component. The integrated utility service model, as well as the credit risk abatement facility, became reality in the finance component. And these are some key initiatives we have been working on, as I said, and there are many more, but I think it would be really important for all the team members, for us, to see where are they going, what is happening with them, where are they standing in 5 years, and we will be discussing this exactly today. For me, it is still fascinating how well the remote project implementation at the end and overall worked out. We have achieved all our outcome indicators, our output indicators, almost all of our outcome indicators already, which is under the circumstances with a complete remote implementation, I think quite something. But this is due to all the persons who have been involved. Everyone was open and willing really to go that way, to follow us, to trust us, to go into the virtual implementation and to coordinate everything virtually and make the change in that way, in a complete different working modality. The circumstances were, as I said, sometimes not that easy with the pandemic, but for me it is really, was really nice to see the team members collaborating in that way and see that collaboration also continuing after with a lot of regional and national entities, organizations over a long time. And I'm more pleased now to see that everything is getting back a bit more to normal, that we can see and meet each other, and I'm very pleased about that. to have you all here today. I'm also very pleased and proud of my team. They have really achieved a lot. They put a lot of efforts in the event today, but also in the execution of all the activities we have been planning. I look very much forward to look more in detail into the panels and to have discussions with you about the impact of TAPSEC and where can that bring us. You have seen already the short video about the journey behind of TAPSEC and the people behind of the team. We will learn much more of a key success factor of the TAPSEC project today, what I believe is the collaboration with the regional institutions we've been working with, and also the national entities, the national and ministries for energy and mining in Dominican Republic, but also in CARICOM member states, the ministries there responsible for energy, as well as regulatory authorities, utilities, private sector, and so on. So welcome again. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for connecting virtually to this event. And I'm looking really forward to the day and to catch up with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon Zellner. And now we'll have our first partner spotlight, the Caribbean Center for Energy and Energy Efficiency. We invite Mr. Elson Jordan, Finance Manager of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, to share more about their partnership with TAPSEC.
Good morning. All protocols observed. It is truly an honor, privilege of mine to engage with you this morning and to share with you the story of the SICRI and our partnership with the TAPSEC program has been, in my view, an interesting and wonderful journey. It has been this past 4 or 5 years. So all protocols observed, really the face of what they found when they arrived has changed, but the work of transformation continues. Good morning, I am Elson Jordan. I am the Finance Manager at the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, the SICRI. I first convey my regrets at the absence of our Executive Director, Dr. Gary Jackson. He's off island and he's not well, but he brings and asked me to convey his regrets as well as his well wishes for the engagement today. I've been asked to share a little of our partnership with the GIZ. On our collaboration of the past 4 or 5 years under the TAPSEC grant in particular. A little of the SICRI and how this whole engagement came about. The 41st special meeting of the Council for Trade and Economic Development on Energy was held in March 2013. And at that event, it approved the CARICOM energy policy, which provided direct focus on the use of renewable energy and energy efficiency to propel the development of the region. At the same time, at the same Quartet meeting, the Caribbean Sustainable Energy Roadmap and Strategy, CSERMS, was approved to support the policy, which inter alia initial regional level targets for renewable energy and contribution to total energy generation in the CARICOM, specifically contributions of 20% in 2017, 28% by 2022, and 47% by 2027. The CARICOM Secretariat, cognizant of the slow pace to achieve the targets and the information gap, requested support under the Technical Assistance Program for Sustainable Energy in the Caribbean, TAPSEC, to support the development of an energy knowledge hub, renewable energy, energy efficiency, training, and a project preparation facility, inter alia. At the 36th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, held in Bridgetown, Barbados, 2nd to 4th July 2015, it endorsed the establishment of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency as the implementation hub for sustainable energy activities and projects within the region. The Secretariat of the Center is situated in Bridgetown, Barbados. The legal agreement established in the decree went into force on the 19th of May 2018, about 2 years after the TAPSEC came to the region, after receiving a sufficient number of ratifications from the member states. And so on the 28th of May 2018, the decree headquarters agreement was executed between the Barbados government and the decree, and that provided the life and the impetus and gave full legal personality to the decree. The project rationale. SICRI, under its mandate, sought to respond to the difficult energy situation in many of the Caribbean islands. There were and are still facing the challenges of access to modern, reliable, and affordable energy services, energy security, and climate change, mitigation, and adaptation simultaneously. These challenges are intertwined with the region's economic and social challenges. The success of socio-economic and industrial development strategies in the Caribbean region will highly depend on the improvement of the current energy situation. By developing member states' renewable energy sources and putting in place energy efficiency measures, many of the islands will have significant opportunities to reduce the overall fossil fuel consumption and thus improve their energy security, while at the same time promoting clean economic growth and lessening dependence on costly imported petroleum fuels. And that is evident in our reality still today. The development of the sustainable energy potentials is interrelated with a broad range of positive economic impacts. For example, the reduction of fossil fuel imports, increased affordability for lower income groups through the reduction of electricity for consumer prices in the long term, energy efficiency improvement, increased competitiveness of companies and industries, reduction of standby diesel generators, creation of green jobs, etc. The region is endowed with a broad range of renewable energy sources, bioenergy, solar, wind, hydro, tidal, geothermal, etc. And therefore, there is significant potential for energy efficiency improvements with regard to lighting appliances, buildings, electricity transmission, distribution, including other forms of energy distribution, industrial processes, particularly in urban areas. Small-scale decentralized renewable energy solutions can be cost-effective options to satisfy the needs of the rural population located far away from the main grid. And this is particularly relevant in countries such as Belize, Guyana, Haiti, and Suriname. Renewable energy and energy efficiency solutions can be an important driver to increase the productivity and competitiveness of industrial key sectors such as food processing, fishery, manufacturing of high-value niche products and services, and tourism. A growing sustainable energy market therefore offers new income and job opportunities for energy service and manufacturing companies. Just quickly look at the broader context for the financing which was provided by the GIZ. In October 2016, the CARIFORM Directorate of the European Union signed a financing agreement for the 11th EDF. And out of that, a component was the Technical Assistant TAPSEC program. The implementation modality for the program was a delegation agreement between the Commission of the European Union and GIZ, which implemented the program in collaboration with regional implementing bodies such as the SICRI, the CARICOM Secretariat, and the Ministry of Energy and Mines in the Dominican Republic. TAPSEC supported CARIFORUM countries within the wider Caribbean EU partnerships. So that's the context. There were 5 outcomes associated with the SICRI program. Outcome 1 was enhance regional institutional capacities through the creation of the efficiently managed and financially sustainable Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy, the SICRI. Outcome 2 was accelerated development, adaptation, and the execution of regional and national gender-sensitive policies, targets and incentives through targeted regional interventions. Outcome 3 was strengthen capacities of local key institutional stakeholder groups through the upscaling and replication of certified training and applied research programs and mechanisms. Outcome 4 was the enhanced awareness of key stakeholder groups on renewable energy and energy efficiency opportunities through the upscaling of regional mechanisms for data and knowledge management and advocacy. And outcome 5 was the increased renewable energy and energy efficiency business opportunities for local companies in industry through the execution of regional investment promotion programs, tailored financial schemes, and a project preparation facility. So the financial contribution from the TAPSEC to the SICRI was at the outset about 1.3 million euros, and that was upscaled to about 1.7 when we finally concluded. And that financial support was intended to address the main actions. 1, the implementation of the first operational phase of the SICRI to include the recruitment of key staff positions, and these positions included knowledge management, capacity development specialists, sustainable energy and project development and gender specialists, a sustainable energy expert for renewable energy, a partial support for comms and public relations specialists, and funding for a number of internship programs, as Simon mentioned this morning, the REAP, the Renewable Energy Apprenticeship Program. Those were part of the activities and positions that were funded. The program also supported the implementation of the Caribbean Energy Knowledge Hub, the CEKH, that will support energy information and knowledge needs among energy stakeholders, including member states within the CARICOM region, and that will also include an integration mechanism of exchange information with the Dominican Republic. Through the knowledge management and capacity specialists, that work supported developing protocols for training and certification for renewable energy and energy efficiency, technical vocational skills, including RE and EE technology installation and maintenance, etc. We also developed professional training and certification programs. For instance, implement energy management, certified energy manager, certified energy auditor training programs, electric vehicle servicing and maintenance, as well as first responder training with appropriate protocols for training and regional certification. There's also a heavy emphasis with the regional universities network, which was aligned to the SICRI work program, activities particularly with respect to the design, implement, and integrate curriculum and course content for teaching and sensitizing students on the characteristics of and applications of the Caribbean Regional Energy Efficiency Building Code, the Quebec, and that was intended to design and implement and integrate curriculum and course content for teaching and sensitizing students on energy, statistics and information management, and related integration into the CEKH. So those were some of the major activities that we undertook during the 4 or 5 year period. As mentioned, our grant was 1.279 million euros. Initially, there was an implementation period of 26 months from June 2019 to July 2021. But that was revised and extended to March of 2022. And as mentioned before, the sum of the grant was increased to 1.74 million euros. And our projections indicates that we should spend around about 90 to 95% of the allocation. Obviously, the 2-year lull with the pandemic did cause a major restructuring of the budget, our work program activities, and that impacted the rollout in some respects of the program. So, in summary, this testimonial asserts that our partnership was developmental in scope and focused and allowed the SICRI to advance on its mandate. Secondly, given its unique role and responsibility, the grant allowed the SICRI to articulate its vision and strategies for the region. Thirdly, our partnership was inclusive and fitted into the work program of the SICRI. The grant and our partnership also offered a great start to the development of the technical expertise of the staff it funded, and allowed our staff to express their technical skills and knowledge, which has been widely shared and have become a go-to points of reference. In particular, I make reference to the CKH and the knowledge hubs, the knowledge products that is coming out of the knowledge hub, including our annual energy report card exercise. The partnership has contributed to the build-out of the region's efforts to place capacity on the ground to develop renewable energy solutions through our project preparation facility. The partnership has added depth and scope to our communication strategy, and in that regard, the build-out of our website and our presence on major social platforms attest to that. And finally, it has helped the SICRI to lay its foundation and to anchor the trust of its mandate. And so the SICRI's executive board, Simon, and our team, thanks to the GIC for this intervention, has been timely, impactful, and useful. It's been valued. It has been for us an important contribution, and we have heard from them as well that the partnership has been mutually beneficial. The circumstances of what was found at the start of this partnership has been and are being changed and transformed into realities that we know will benefit and sustain the advancements of the region's efforts as we move forward. I thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Alson Jordan, Finance Manager of the Caribbean Center for Regional Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. So it's that time that we enter the first panel discussion, Reformulating the Policy and Regulations Landscape of the Caribbean. And it's Ms. Sparkle Prentice, Senior Policy, Regulations and Resilience Advisor for GIZ TAPSEC, who will be facilitating this session with esteemed members of the panel. Before we get to the discussions, I invite you to watch what we can expect from this discussion.
A sound policy and regulatory framework is a foundational pillar towards the achievement of many of the sustainable development goals set by countries. In the Caribbean, regional policies and regional support have long played a steadfast role in guiding the actions of regional organizations and national entities on the effective pathways to sustainable development. They are also critical to the creation of an environment that enables growth, expansion, and development of sectors that are crucial to the island's holistic progress. While some development progress has been made in the region's energy sector, the rate of sustainable energy development and more recently climate resilience has differed across countries as a result of geographical, economic, technical and social distinctions among the Caribbean islands. We will explore the role and impact of regional energy policies, strategies, tools and mechanisms in transitioning to sustainable energy, and whether the creation of a robust regional policy framework can successfully reset and level the scales for national implementation across the region. Welcome to Session 1, Reformulating the Policy and Regulations Landscape of the Caribbean.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first session of the morning. I thank you for being able to join us today. Once again, my name is Sparkle Prentice. I'm the Senior Policy, Regulations and Resilience Advisor on the TAPSEC program and component leader of the Policy and Regulations component. I have with me 5 distinguished speakers, and I'll introduce them for you today. To my furthest right is a gentleman that needs no introduction, but I will introduce him anyway. Dr. Devon Gardner, Head of Technical Programs at the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, otherwise known as the CCRE. To my immediate right, Ambassador Brian Challenger, Advisor to the Minister of Energy in the Ministry of Public Utilities, Civil Aviation, Transport and Energy from Antigua and Barbuda. To my immediate left is Ms. Skeeta Carrasco, Regulatory Economist at the National Utilities Regulatory Commission, NERC, in St. Lucia. To Ms. Carrasco's left is Mr. Charlie De La Rosa, Director of Renewable Energies at the Ministry of Energy and Mines in the Dominican Republic. And to my furthest right is Ms. Janice Hilaire, Coordinator, Resources and Program Development at the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, otherwise known as CROSSQ. Welcome. Mr. Zellner has spoken earlier about the specific objective of TAPSEC, which was to support the implementation of the CARICOM energy policy, the CSUMs, as well as the National Renewable Energy Policy of the Dominican Republic. And in doing so, the policy and regulations components had the singular objective of supporting the implementation of renewable energy and energy efficiency policy and regulatory frameworks that would support that development across the CARIForum. And in doing so and working assiduously with many of our partners, key implementing partners who are on this stage and who are in the audience today, we were able to together accomplish several different frameworks that would support this. We've developed the Regional Energy Efficiency Strategy and Action Plan that would serve to help upscale energy efficiency across the Caribbean. Accompanying that energy efficiency strategy, which we call the REAS and REAP, we've developed 15 national level strategies that would support implementation of energy efficiency and a step-by-step approach to do so within each of the CARICOM countries. There's the Regional Electric Vehicle Strategy called the REVS that was successfully developed through working with our partners, the CCRE, CARICOM, and many of our regional partners. And along with that strategy, which is called the REVS, we have a case study as well as 4 key application examples that serve to illustrate how that strategy can be applied within the member states. There is the CARICOM Energy Policy and Regulations Help Desk that was also mentioned. That was a mechanism developed to provide direct technical assistance to member states directly in response to their needs for modernizing policies, updating regulatory frameworks, and even supporting program and project initiatives that would help with achieving policy objectives in country. We will learn today about the implementation of the CREBEC and the support that was provided to it within that level of work. We will also speak today about some of the policy interventions that were done in the Dominican Republic. Now, that being said, that's just an example of some of the achievements that we were able to accomplish under the TAPSEC program. But bringing us back to the discussions and what we really want to discuss under the title of this session. I want to start from the regional perspective. We have these regional policies, regional strategies, and some are of the view that, you know, it's all well and good to have these regional policies, these regional strategies, but can they realistically and tangibly provide any level of, not just support, but can they realistically impact the sustainable energy transition across the region? And I'd like to direct that first question to Dr. Gardner. And I think you're the most appropriate person to be able to speak on this and to hear your view and your insights on this. Dr. Gardner? Oh, your mic is next to you? No, I don't. You don't have one? Yes, and it would be really wonderful to hear your insights, specifically as you're now the head of technical programs at the CCRI, and you're formerly the program manager of the CARICOM Energy Program. Do you realistically believe that these are regional policies and strategies, those created on TAPSEC, but even in general, that they can actually create the impact that we're looking for across the region as we transition to sustainable energy?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for that question, Sparkle. I'll be brief. Let me start by saying that the way in which the CARICOM process works is one of functional cooperation. I want to start with that. Armstrong is here. He's the Deputy Secretary General. He can tell you when he speaks again later how much functional cooperation has been able to do for us as a region. Since 2003, energy has been identified as one of the areas of functional cooperation within the CARICOM framework. And that was promulgated on the basis of the view that a number of governments had at the time that there was need to begin the transition. Since as early as 2003, they started to push for a regional approach to the energy transition, recognizing that different countries had different levels of energy opportunities that were available to them, and that some of these energy opportunities that were in some countries could actually support the transition in other countries. And that was where the whole thing started. And so there was collective work throughout the region that led to the energy policy that was established in 2013. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It was something that really looked at the realities of each country, trying to understand what the resource base is within each country, trying to understand what the demand centers and demand requirements are in each country, and something that tried to understand how the cost-effective and available opportunities for energy supply could actually provide support for those which had the most demand. Also, beyond just the supply-demand integration, it looked at where there were opportunities for cooperation around the less tangible things like capacity building and information sharing and so on. And that was what led to a lot of the work around the energy policy, and then, of course, recognizing that a policy doesn't stand on its own. The Sustainable Energy Roadmap and Strategy was developed to support the implementation of the policy. Now, whether or not, we agree on the levels of success that we have attained so far, there is clear cognizance that a regional approach to policies and strategies is important to the transition of every single member state. One, countries have very similar features in their energy situations, regardless of what their resource base is. There are some features of every single country in CARICOM that are very similar. They all are very inefficient, whether they are oil-rich, geothermal-rich, or hydro-rich in how they use energy. In some instances, even the way they supply and deliver energy. So something like energy efficiency, for instance, as a case in point, is an obvious trend that can be pursued in an aggregated way among countries, because there are lessons and experiences and capabilities and capacities that can be shared and leveraged from country to country if we were to look at pursuing something like energy efficiency as a strategy in a symbiotic way and in a regionally aggregated way. And I now use the Energy Efficiency Building Code as an example of how we were able to collaboratively take the understanding that there was a lot of opportunities for improving the way in which we use energy in buildings and translate that into a regional code, or in a sense, a regional approach to energy efficiency in buildings. By leveraging the best minds in the region, we were able to aggregate a project team that constituted representation of energy experts, standards experts, architects, engineers from all 15 member states, putting them together, sometimes in the same room, sometimes virtually, to come up with a solution of what a regional energy efficiency building code would look like, one that would be beneficial to each and every one of their member states. And we were able to do that with one single set of resources. Imagine if we were to try to do that 15 times for 15 different countries in cases where each country had to find its own internal human and other resources to do that. It would be costly, it would be slow for some, and it would be much more expensive. So being able to collaborate, actually reduce costs, reduce time, and improve the level of capacity and knowledge and capabilities that are available and to solve any problem at any one time. So the bottom line is that regional approaches to policy and strategy around energy, when targeted suitably, will provide the basis through which countries can accelerate their transition. And that is the message, really. And so, the experiences so far of the regional electric vehicle strategy, the experience so far of the regional energy efficiency strategy, the experiences so far around the CARICOM regional energy efficiency building code as a case in point are very clear examples of how we could come together and build out approaches that would be able to allow us to get orientation that can help countries to move the needle much more quickly. We are moving it as fast as we'd like to, but we'll have to find other ways and means to help to move it a bit quicker. But at least the orientation and the approach in terms of what should be done and how it should be done is there on the table for countries to see and to follow.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner. So what I'm hearing is that the view that these regional policies and regional strategies aren't these esoteric and theoretical ideas floating around that we just get on paper and expect to see some sort of implementation that trickles down and that follows. That's misguided. And it's more of a, if you look at the regional policies and the role that they play, it's that there's a concerted effort and agreement by all of the CARICOM countries on what the approaches are by bringing the best minds together from those countries to sit down and develop what these regional policies should look like, what the objectives and the goals should be, what we are aiming towards, and what those methodologies and approaches are, that we have this agreement and this concerted effort of how we will move forward. And that is really the key that makes these regional policies one of the best approaches to be able to advance sustainable energy in this sector.
The key approach is, as you pointed out, ensuring that the collective understanding of the situation and the ground in the countries are taken into account as a starting point. And having the players from all the countries in the room or within the context of the development process is critical to that. And so we're not just simply sitting down in an office as a regional institution and doing a top-down exercise, but it's one that collectively look at what the realities in the countries are and bring all of those together to understand how do we find the things that are common to us? How do we tackle those things that we want to prioritize within those common issues? And how do we ensure that collectively we find an approach that leverages our strengths and covers our weaknesses as best as is possible? And within the whole context of that, how do we learn the lessons from each one so that in 2 years of developing, for instance, a building code for energy efficiency, we would have used 1,000 years of experience from multiplicity of countries who would have been doing so. And within that context, the critical piece is to respect the principles of subsidiarity, as we call it, the specificities in each country that will require you to make allocations and adjustments on a national basis, even within a regional context. So we do ensure that countries are able to participate where it is beneficial for them to do so, but recognize that there are subsidiarity principles that will require countries sometimes to make tweaks or make changes or allowances. Because what we did in the case of the Energy Efficiency Building Code, of taking a global code and then making a regional application document to that global code, and make that the basis for a regional code, having done extensive studies on which global code would have been most applicable to our region, was something that was very important in the approach. And you know, countries then determined in some instances that they wanted to develop national applications to the regional document so that they could apply some aspects of it to their national circumstances, and some they would probably not want to apply. So that was important.
So we've spoken about the processes behind the development of these regional policies and how those processes are actually what is crucial to making those regional policies most useful to member states, right? But what about the tools and the mechanisms, those regional tools and mechanisms that we develop that are meant to support policy implementation in the member states, but they're regional tools. And when I say that, I look at, for instance, the IRRPs. I would consider that a regional tool that supports that. The CARICOM Energy Policy and Regulations Help Desk as another example of what that is. Even the CARILEC benchmarking, the automation of the utility benchmarking platform. How do you realistically see those tools as supporting the implementation of the regional policies, but also advancing goals in member states? Are they effective tools to drill down and advance the energy sector in member states in the way that we are expecting?
Yeah, definitely. So within the context of the development of politics and the policies and the application of strategies, tools are very important and critical. And so we have always looked as we do this kind of work at what are the right box of tools or the right toolkit that we should utilize within the context of policy setting, strategy setting, and even the implementation aspects. Within the context of the policies and strategies themselves, we recognize that having the right kind of tools to get to collect data at country level, to generate from the data intelligence, information and intelligence at country level, and then being able to roll up that data and information and intelligence to make it regional is important. So for instance, in the context of the integrated resource and resilience planning, we were able to work collectively with as regional institutions to determine what would be an appropriate methodology, what would be the appropriate tool sets that would be applicable for us to develop electric sector plans that were representative of our countries in the Caribbean, recognizing the similarities of some of the issues that we face in the Caribbean. And do recall that when we talk about regional institutions, a regional institution consists of people from countries in the region. So you're not talking about something that is esoteric. So when you're developing something in us with CCRE and SEDEMA and 5Cs and CIMH, these are a collection of people who are coming from people from the region with regional experience, regional understanding, and regional knowledge. So you're not talking about something that is aloof from the region itself. So there is already within that construct of people from the region in regional institutions working some amount of national experience and national understanding there within that construct. And in being able to approach it in that way, we were able to find mechanisms that were linked to global best practices, but nevertheless deep-seated in the requirements of the region and the way in which we would approach it. And then in so doing, we adopted the right kind of tools that we thought could give us the kinds of analytics that was required, because what is important in policy and strategy setting is really having data-driven analytics. That is something that has been missing for years. And so what the approach we took in the TAPSEC is that we wanted to go to ground zero and find ways and means through which we can ensure that the process of policy setting, strategy setting was something that was driven by real data, by real information, and by very precise intelligence that we could utilize to understand what was possible and what was doable, and ensure that in so doing we could project what the potential benefits and would be from the outcomes that we could derive. And that was what we aim to do with the IRRP and all the other things that we do. Even with the Energy Efficiency Building Code, it was a lot of analytics which went into it, and Derek will tell you, he's sitting down there. You know, we brought consultants in to do analysis. We didn't just get up and look around and say, okay, let's take this code and adapt it. We ran analysis. We were doing building simulation exercises so we can understand. We were taking aggregations of energy audits that were conducted all across the region for years to understand what that was telling us in terms of energy saving opportunities and energy efficiency issues that we needed to address and approach. And in doing so, we were really coming up with solutions that were based on real data and solutions that were based on information that was reflective of the situation in the region, and that was providing us with the best quality intelligence that could help to drive decision support. So when we were presenting to our decision makers the options and the opportunities for consideration in terms of strategies and the policies and so on, even the electric vehicle strategy and so on, at every single stage, we were able to frame in those conversations what the intelligence was that we had gained from the work on the ground as institutions in the region that had collaborated and coordinated with national institutions who had those information available to them.
So what you're saying is that with these tools and these mechanisms, the IRRP and the data collection that comes with it, and the intelligence that we get from that data, is that you have actually seen the impact of some of these tools and mechanisms already, and if not, you foresee that this will be happening.
Yeah, we have already seen, in the case of the IRRPs, there are countries that are already seeing what the investment pipeline for their electricity sector plans are going to look like. So countries are already looking at the IRRP results, which are now emerging, and they are seeing what kind of power plants, what kind of transmission upgrades and grid upgrades are required, what kind of demand side mechanisms are potentially possible. And having these, and this is about 5-year cuts, 20-year cuts, 10-year cuts. So they are having this kind of intelligence that are helping them to say, hey, this is what I need to perhaps look at in terms of how I will frame my investment in the electricity sector if I want to meet certain types of targets over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years, and so on. In the context of the electric vehicle strategy, countries are understanding, because within the electric vehicle strategy, one of the things we did was, although it was a regional electric vehicle strategy, we built it out as a toolkit from which countries can pretty much use it like a Lego set. You can pick the pieces that are applicable to you and build out a national strategy from the pieces that are available to you in the regional strategy. So the regional strategy really gives you the building blocks and tell you how to apply each building block set to your situation and circumstance in the countries. And we were even able to do demonstrations of that by picking out 3 country examples of how you would use a regional electric vehicle strategy to build out a national electric vehicle strategy. And in so doing, what it's really looking at is telling you, look at your infrastructure requirements for charging. Look at your demand for new vehicles in your country and see where it is that your demand could be supported or accelerated. Look at your fiscal incentives for importation of new vehicles. And look at your policies where transportation are concerned. Look at your policies for energy efficiency. And look at your capacity for maintaining and managing vehicles, and look at fleet vehicles, look at opportunities for public transportation. So it gives you all the building blocks and then tells you how you apply each piece. And, in that context, countries can then say, okay, these pieces will apply to me, these pieces will not apply to me, and look at how they would build that out to get their own national electric vehicle strategy. And we have been able to demonstrate that by picking out from the regional electric vehicle strategy, national applications for Belize, national applications for St. Lucia, and national applications for Jamaica. And we were able to test that against a real example of Barbados, which is probably one of those countries which have been far advanced where electric vehicle is coming compared to the others. So it's really not meant to be an esoteric exercise, but a practical exercise that is framed within the context of robust tools that we build a significant amount of capacity on within national institutions. So that is an important part in that we help to build the capacity in national institutions, especially universities. We then look at how we can also strengthen regional institutions to backstop the countries so that the countries can, in a sense, depend on the regional institutions as almost as part of their own ecosystem to help them when they need it. And that's the approach that we have taken.
So we have the CARICOM energy policy, we have the CSIMs, we have the REs, the REAP, the REVs, the IRPs, the help desk, and these other tools, mechanisms, regional policies. From a regional perspective, are there still gaps? And what are those gaps that we still need to fill?
Yeah, of course there will always be gaps. The first gap is that you always have to be in a process of renewal and update. So the principle of a policy being developed and left untouched is something that we need to move away from. We need to get to a stage where we have what we call a self-consistency approach to policy and strategy design, where we continually and consistently upgrade and update policy designs and strategy designs as time progresses, as better quality information comes, as the circumstances change, as technology provides new opportunities, as implementation occurs and we are able to move beyond where we were 5-10 years ago. That process is something that is missing, the process of self-consistent update and upgrading. And this is really the biggest piece of the puzzle, because the starting point is always good. But then if the starting point is not continually keeping abreast of where we are as we move, then you will always end up being orientated by something which is no longer relevant to your circumstance or situation as you make progress. And that is really something that we really want to spend a lot of time on. Really, in the context of the CCRE, this is one reason why the CCRE was established in the first place. Because the CCRE was established to provide that body of regional knowledge, that body of regional capacity, really a collective of experts who would have the capability to be able to continually do all of this upgrading and updating so that there is always a policy and a strategy that is current and reflective of the realities of the region and is reflective of the opportunities that the region ought to be pursuing. And that is where I think the biggest gap is. We have not been renewing fast enough. We have not been upgrading and updating fast enough.
Okay, absolutely. So definitely thanks for that regional perspective on how these regional policies, strategies, and tools can drill down into the member states. But I think it would be interesting to hear the perspective from a member state. And Ambassador Challenger, I want to direct this question to you. Considering these mechanisms and these policies that we've spoken about, well, you've heard them all so far. From the perspective of a member state, do you really see it making a tangible impact in country? Now, I saw you nodding at some points while Dr. Gardner was speaking, but it would be interesting to hear your perspective and your insights and your view on this.
Well, good morning, Sparkle. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me say thank you for the opportunity to share our experience with you. Certainly, in looking at the regional perspective, I think we need to recognize, as Devon has pointed out, it's a sort of it's necessarily sort of global. Let me backtrack. First of all, the regional perspectives, the regional policy really derives from national policies. So that at the end of the day, what you have is the set of national priorities, a set of national interests that result in that regional policy. They don't come from outer space. They really reflect what the countries themselves have identified as their priorities. So that I think where the confusion sometimes arises is because these are necessarily global in their scope, because they're not going to address what is peculiar to Antigua and Barbuda, or what is peculiar to Jamaica, or what is peculiar to Barbados. They're going to cover the region. So there are going to be some things that may not necessarily be immediately applicable or even at any point in time applicable to a particular country. Antigua and Barbuda has no geothermal potential, for example. So those areas that look at geothermal would obviously not be applicable. But as Devon said, there are at the same time many themes that are consistent across the region. So I think that the regional policies do reflect the national policies, and they're necessarily aspirational as well. These are things that we are aspiring to. They're not necessarily what you have on the ground at present, but they are aspirational. This is what the national entities, the governments are aspiring to achieve within a certain time frame. And again, sometimes that causes confusion. Oh, you know, people believe, oh, this is pie in the sky stuff. But no, you have to have a vision. You have to move in that direction. So I think those are some of the areas where sometimes some confusion arises. But they're very important. And we have, for example, gathered here today a number of regional institutions. These regional policies are also very important in guiding the priorities of those regional institutions. Your CDBs, your UWIs, your CCREs, they draw on those regional policies. Again, selecting those aspects of it that are relevant to them. And they're able to attract funding and to receive support because the programs that they're pursuing do not exist in a vacuum. But they're pursued because, again, they fall within that regional scope, that regional framework. At the national level, in the case of Antigua and Barbuda, yes, I mean, we have moved to, with support from TAPSEC, CARICOM, to update our national energy policy. That became necessary for a number of reasons. Three main reasons, I would say. First of all, our initial national energy policy was done in 2011. Cabinet approved it in 2011. That almost seems like 100 years ago now. So much has changed since 2011. The technology obviously has changed dramatically since then. In 2011, I don't think anybody was talking about EVs. The whole concept of solar, battery storage, all these things have come much more to the fore since then. So there's the technology driving the need for that change. Climate change itself has become a much larger issue regionally, globally, nationally than it was even 10 years ago. In our case, we got really badly hit in 2017 by Hurricane Irma. Again, that sort of stirred a national consciousness about climate change and the need to move towards greener, cleaner technologies. And the final reason, which I think, and perhaps in a way the more immediate reason why we needed a new energy policy, was there was a change in government. A new government came in with a new direction, if you will. And as Devon pointed out also, you know, a policy is not something static. It has to be dynamic. It has to be something that is forever emerging, etc., etc. So I think that when you look at our new national energy policy, it reflects even more than the 2011 policy did, a lot of what is contained in the CARICOM strategy. So again, it's kind of reinforcing the aspirational aspect of it, that you do have to aim down the road. It has to be aspirational. You have to set those visionary goals, and countries will invariably move in that direction, because this is the way that bringing together all the, you know, for want of a better word, all the bright minds of the region, this is the way that you identify that you have to go. I'm not sure I've answered your question, but...
You more than answered my question. Okay. You went into some of the next questions I was about to ask you.
I apologize.
It's fine. But it's interesting, you know, that you spoke about the reasons for needing to update the national energy policy, and you touched on change in government, even antiquated perspectives, because this information is 11 years old, or 1100 as you so adequately put it. And this is a dynamic environment. The energy industry is dynamic. It's constantly changing. It's multifaceted, and we have to keep up. You know, there are a lot of disruptive technologies that come in as well. So it's impossible to create one policy now and expect that that would chart the future of the country well, for eternity. It has to be updated, and within, rightly so, within a particular time frame. So, you know, you mentioned the support Antigua and Barbuda received under TAPSEC, and actually Antigua and Barbuda was the first country to receive support from the CARICOM Energy Policy and Regulations Help Desk. And that's actually one of those regional mechanisms and tools that we were just discussing and questioning how much of an impact do these regional tools actually have. And you touched on some outdated information in your current policy, the 2011 policy. So what sort of changes can we expect to see in this revised policy that was supported under the help desk?
Thanks, Sparkle. Let me start by saying I'm not an engineer. I'm probably the least engineering capable person in this room. My background is law and politics. So when we decided that we wanted to come up with a new national energy policy, and I've been working around politicians for over 40 years now, so I have I think I have a pretty good sense of what they can stomach and what they will not stomach. So you go into this thing very cautiously. You know that you have to be very pragmatic in what you want to achieve. And again, I think we really got good support from TAPSEC/CARICOM on this project. The approach we took was to really have a sort of bottom-up approach. We consulted a number of NGOs, number of government agencies, came up with their vision, looked at it in-house. Some of these, particularly sometimes from the NGOs, these can be kind of, for want of a better word, radical. You right off the bat, you know, no government is going to agree to those things for whatever reason, special interests, whatever. So you have to find a way to make it palatable, yet at the same time be aspirational, yeah? And we were able to do that through a number of the tools which I think distinguished the present policy, which it's a draft policy now, as you know, to the previous one. One of the critical tools we used was modeling. There was much more intensive energy modeling done this time around than we did the last time. This took place also against the background of the whole climate change debate, where countries have come up with NDCs. I think it's fair to say in most of our countries, certainly in the case of Antigua and Barbuda, the NDC goals and targets are very ambitious, very, very ambitious in terms of the transition towards clean energy. And we were able to sort of break those down into realistic chunks. What can realistically be achieved? So I think that's a great advantage of this present support which we received from TAPSEC/CARICOM was the ability to get more granular, yet at the same time have the stakeholder participation, explaining along the way as we go. Yes, you want to have 100% renewable energy, but hey guys, to do that, you're going to have to cough up, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not going to happen. So let's find a way to make gradual steps, incremental steps in that direction. And again, I think that the modeling exercise, which was much more in-depth than we did in the first time, I think that really was really very helpful in that regard.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you know, you've touched on some of that intelligence that Dr. Gardner mentioned and how that realistically applies to developing more practical energy policies that are data-driven. And that's excellent, actually. I think it would be interesting to get the perspective of another member state, but one that operates within the regulated space. So I want to ask you, Ms. Carrasco, and you've heard the regional perspective, and you've heard the perspective of Ambassador Challenger on how these regional mechanisms and regional tools can actually drill down and support development in the national context. Specifically, in the case of Antigua and Barbuda, looking at policy development. But how does that really impact the regulated space for you? So from your perspective as a regulator, do you agree?
are your insights the same, and do you share the same sentiments?
Good morning, Sparkle. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor to be here today. From a regulatory perspective, I would agree that the regional approach has a benefit for regulators. When we look at the issues that regulators are dealing with in the energy sector transition, accelerating renewable energy adoption across the region, the issues are similar. We see regulators are responsible for approving the IRRPs, which Dr. Gardner spoke about. They're responsible for setting tariffs, renewable energy rates that actually create the enabling environment that attract investment into the sector. And these are not unique to St. Lucia or to Barbados. These are shared across the region by our regulators. What we have also noticed that is because of the dynamic nature of the sector, regulators constantly need to be updated. They constantly need training. They need to learn new ways of doing things. And to use the words of Alvin Toffler, regulators need to learn, unlearn, and relearn all the time. And this is something that having a regional approach really brings the best benefits. Like Dr. Gardner was saying, having the brightest minds together, working on these problems and filtering those solutions down to the individual regulators, there is merit to that. We have seen some of it happen through the organization of Caribbean Utility Regulators, OCA, and I see Marsha here, who is a member of OCA, and there has been tremendous benefit in that. So I think having that regional approach, especially given our resource constraints within the islands, I mean, for us as a regulator, we have limited budgets, and if there is a regional approach that we can benefit from, then it really frees up some of our resources to do other things. So I think there is great benefit in having that regional approach. And we have seen it through the benefits of the project that TAPSEC supported with us.
And it's very interesting to hear you say that. That's a sentiment that I hear regulators across the region echo. There's never enough resources within the regulatory agency to actually execute its mandate. And you're always, it's balancing priorities and trying to figure out what do we allocate to what this year. And it's a bit of a struggle. And interestingly, St. Lucia and NERC in particular was the first regulatory agency to receive support on the regulatory side under the CARICOM Energy Policy and Regulations Help Desk. Walk us through what exactly was done and how that benefited NERC, how it's intended to benefit St. Lucia, and what happens after that.
Okay, so in St. Lucia, we had a pilot project which started more than 10 years ago in terms of distributed generation. Under that program, there are limits of 5 kilowatts for domestic installations and 25 kilowatts for commercial installations. What we have recognized over the years is that these limits are limiting, in a sense, to people who want to install, especially installations for the tourism sector, for the manufacturing plants that we have. And we recognize that there was need to have a study that would look at how we would set up those renewable energy rates in a manner that they encourage that type of investment that we're looking at. So this is why we approach CARICOM, and the policy help desk was very swift in responding to our needs, and we are extremely grateful for that. And so this study looked at distributed generation rates for prosumers and also utility scale IPP type rates as well. So we received support through GOPA International Energy Consultants. These were the consultants hired through TAPSEC, and we had a very collaborative, consultative process. So from the start, when we started off virtually, as was mentioned earlier, in December 2020, we brought in the utility, the Ministry of Energy, some of our solar PV installers, and we got the support from everyone from the get-go. It was a bit challenging working in the virtual space. We had consultants, one was in Spain, one was in France, one was in South America, but everything worked out. We had it going. And one component that was especially beneficial to stakeholders across the energy sector in St. Lucia was the training component. So there were 6 capacity building training workshops, and they were very useful because while the consultants were working on the models, we were also looking at the inputs that were going into the models. We were looking at, whether stakeholders agreed that some of the assumptions that were being used were relevant. And so it was a very rewarding experience. And when they presented that draft report, we also had a stakeholder consultation workshop where we brought in the broader group of stakeholders, the different associations, Invest St. Lucia, the St. Lucia Development Bank, which is supporting the financing end of things. And so we think that we got a product that we were happy with at the time. Since then, we have gone to do some further work on the capacity limits aspect of it, because we recognize that this is a bit of a controversial issue and one that people are very passionate about. So for the support of GGGI, we had an in-house consultant who has done some further work on this aspect of it. And our hope is to go out to public consultation on that aspect of it, following which we will take it to the government in terms of providing that policy advice. And we're hoping that it will be implemented once our new energy sector legislation is passed.
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Carrasco, for that insight in terms of what happens next. And now that you have this tariff study, what Work St. Lucia is now building on that tariff study, where you're going next, and what we can expect to see in the future. And I think we're all looking forward to that. I want to pivot a bit because we've heard the regional perspective. We've spoken to 2 CARICOM member states, Antigua and Barbuda and St. Lucia. And I'd like to hear from the Dominican Republic, because within the CARICOM itself, of course, while the islands have some distinguishing features and there might be some differences between the islands, they share very similar struggles. What I'd like to hear from the Dominican Republic is, for the benefit of those present, walk us through some of the policy interventions that were executed in the Dominican Republic. And I know there are quite a few, and it would be really good for us to understand a little deeper what those were and what the anticipated impact of those interventions could mean.
Good morning, and thank you very much for the invitation. We can present 4 important outputs in the energy policy that we are ongoing right now in the Dominican Republic. And a quick update of these 4 is this 4 output that we have put in the government goals for this for the Dominican Republic. And in this whole process of the next 40 years, there are the goals for the government. And we already have, with the support of the international expert, with the TAPSEC, we go through a roadmap to prepare a draft law and of energy efficiency that right now are in the Congress. And for the grid code. And we prepare some workshop, technical tables, and at this moment we have a draft of a grid code that are now waiting for the last review of the Superintendency of Electricity and the coordinator body of the grid of the Dominican Republic. And other other intervention and help from policies is the one-stop shop for renewable projects. At the moment, we present this project to the minister and to the president of the Dominican Republic, and they are very, very, let's say, happy to have this one-stop shop, because with this we will help a lot for the investment in new renewable energy project in the Dominican Republic. And the other important output is the 5001 ISO for certification in energy efficiency. Right now we have all the collaborators in the MEN that have been with some workshop and preparation, and then we are working right now in the certification of the building. That is this right now the status of the more important for support that we have in the policies right now.
So we've heard you mention the one-stop shop, the ISO 50001 certification, as well as the draft roadmap for energy efficiency that's being worked on. And as we mentioned before, there are always gaps. What is still required to push the Dominican Republic in the direction that it should be going in? Where are those gaps?
Right now, let us say there are gaps like in every project in
yes.
Right. But this output, like I said before, there are right now in the goals from the government delegated to the Ministry of Energy and Mines. For example, the grid code. In the Dominican Republic, we have regulations, interconnections code, but we don't have a grid code per se. And this is very important for us to the new investment in the renewable energy. For example, for the one-stop shop, the final reports that we present to the minister and the president shows that right now 19 organisms work in the permissiology of all the process for new development and construction of new renewable project. And in these 19 organizations, at night do duplicity of functions. So now, with this new project of the one-stop shop, we will eliminate this duplication of work, and we are working. And in the next 2 weeks, we will have a meeting with the new developers that we will include an app that will include the one-stop shop, and this will be a very important project for the new integration and new projects in the DR. And for example, for the 5001 ISO certification, the ministry will be the first organization in the Dominican Republic with these certifications. And this will help to promoting the efficient energy in the other institution there. So yeah, I can mention that thanks for the support of the TAPSEC and the GSED, we have now the thematic part in the Dominican Republic that promote energy efficiency and renewable energy of all type. And this is one of the more representative that shows the interest and the new technology that will present the new era of renewable in the country. So they say this represents important has been this objectives and this project in the Dominican Republic for the commitments to this area.
Thank you, Mr. De La Rosa. I think we'll all be watching with a very keen eye to see the developments that will come with the one-stop shop and with the renewable energy theme park, but in particular with the one-stop shop, because I think there's an opportunity to learn from that particular approach that's being utilized in the Dominican Republic and to see what those interlinkages are and how we can sort of pluck certain things that are very successful and how that can be tailored to the CARICOM context. I would like to discuss from the regional perspective, but looking specifically at quality infrastructure. And so I want to direct my next question to Ms. Janice Hilaire. You're with CrossQ, and CrossQ plays a very important role in the energy transition. The cross-cutting nature of quality infrastructure is it does not go unnoticed. And what do you view as those important aspects of quality infrastructure? How can that benefit the sustainable energy transition from your perspective at CrossQ?
Good morning, everybody. So to answer this question, I'd first need to put into context what quality infrastructure is. So CrossQ is a regional organization that is responsible for developing and harmonizing regional quality infrastructure. CrossQ is also a network of the 15 CARICOM member states through the National Bureaus of Standards. When we speak of quality infrastructure, we talk about standards development and technical regulations, metrology, which is the science of weights and measures, conformity assessment, which looks at testing, inspection, and certification services of goods and services, as well as accreditation, which is slightly different because it's not a service that the quality infrastructure organization does. It is a level of competence that it gains and attestation that it is competent to perform certain services or tests, right? So that is what we do at CrossQ on behalf of the region. So having said that, what we call QI in energy, it can, any one of the pillars, and I should have said we focus a lot on quality promotions. It is really trying to generate this level of education and awareness among the region or within the region so that our demand side can agitate for QI services, because a lot of QI services in the region are voluntary, right? So having said that, you could apply quality infrastructure, any one of the pillars, to any aspect of energy. So in the area of standards development, you could have performance standards for public utilities in terms of grid connection. You could have renewable energy standards for solar technologies, or energy efficiency standards for buildings, for appliances, for electric vehicles. You could have metrology services where you look at calibration of instruments that are used in the energy sector. If I have to pull an example, so for electric vehicles, you could look at calibration of the charging stations to ensure that the readings are reliable and accurate. You could also develop conformity assessment services in terms of your market surveillance, inspection of appliances, inspection of vehicles, inspection of industrial equipment to ensure that there is adherence to the standards, the energy efficiency standards, or whichever energy standards there may be. And then you develop the testing services to verify, right, what energy efficiency rating that the equipment is, or it could be applied in any sector of energy, as well as accreditation where the labs would receive certification, accreditation in terms of ISO 17025, showing their competence to perform certain tests related to energy.
So that being said, and I think you've beautifully outlined how important then the role of QI, quality infrastructure, is in the energy space, specifically in quality control, specifically for some of the services, goods and services that the end user would be paying for in the energy space. We've spoken about the regional perspective for policies and what those methodologies are and how that
can certainly impact implementation in the national space. Is that approach very similar for quality infrastructure, where you focus on this regional methodology and bringing together these key experts to develop this policy and this agreed approach? Or do you find that for quality infrastructure, the approach is a bit different, where you have to focus specifically within the member states? What are the differences there?
So you're speaking of the regional versus the national?
Yes,
okay.
But specifically for quality infrastructure.
So the process has to be the same, because quality infrastructure is developed based on international standards. So there must be active stakeholder participation and engagement. There must be participation of experts who have the requisite skills and knowledge, specifically relating to standards. The standards development process must be transparent, it must be impartial, it must be relevant to the industry. So that process remains the same whether it is at the regional or the national level. Now, having said that, at the national level, QI is developed based on the priority, nationally identified priority, as well as the capacity of the member states, whether it be human, financial, whatever. At the regional level, QI is developed based on regional priority. And from CrossQ, we take our directive from the energy policy, the regional energy policy, right? But that is also endorsed by member states. And we do that to maximize on resources, to maximize on opportunities as it relates to regional integration, technical cooperation. We also do it to ensure that there is harmonization, that each country, based on its own particular situation, is doing the same thing. And that is for integration within CSME. It is also for integration within the global economy. But having said all of that, there is some level of disconnect when we develop the regional instruments and the uptake at the national level. We do have tools at CrossQ to try and mitigate against that. We have the CrossQ Act, which some of our member states have adopted, which speaks of regional standards being adopted nationally. We also have a regional standards development priority plan where member states themselves indicated what the priorities are, right? But I think that when we plan at the regional level, there must be accompanying national strategies and mechanisms. So for instance, if we have the Regional Energy Efficiency Building Code that was approved by the COTED in 2018, not all countries have uptaken that, right? We need to have promotion, or we need to promote the adoption of the standards at the national level as the first step. We need to show member states the big picture. What is the benefit of the standard? How will it assist you? How it will help you in terms of savings, in terms of meeting your NDCs? We also have to promote our instruments in general, to have the demand side agitated for utilization, because remember, standards are voluntary. And we generally just need to also have the authorities in at the national level being aware, so there are incentives. So for instance, if the energy efficiency building codes are being utilized, are there special loans, are there rebates on insurance? These are the things which must accompany any regional intervention.
Thanks. So what I'm hearing is what you've clearly defined those interlinkages between the CARICOM energy policy and the regional priorities that are set for quality infrastructure, and how that is then sort of built into the national priorities within each of the member states for quality infrastructure. But there needs to be a concerted and significant focus on implementation in the member states, and using particularly that example of the CREBEC, the Regional Energy Efficiency Building Code, as one. So I want to pose this final question to all of my panelists, just for a very brief 1-minute statement and intervention. Based on all the discussions that we've had today, we've spoken about how policy at a regional level and those tools and mechanisms can support regional growth, regional development, but also how effective they are at driving processes nationally as well. Based on that, and then based on also the interventions that we have done in TAPSEC, do you see that these are now effective at helping to sort of level the playing field in terms of the implementation that occurs in member states? Because we've seen progress, but we've seen different levels of progress, different degrees of progress across some of the countries. Some might be more progressed than others. And do you foresee, based on what we've discussed today, that this can help to give that extra push to those member states that need it within the region? And I'll start with Dr. Gardner. 1 minute statement, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sparkle and colleagues, for those interventions. Now, the way I perceive it is that what is missing is acceleration. The TAPSEC program has been able to set up important building blocks that will help us to move towards the transition pathway, and actually has put us closer to the transition goal that we desire. We have always been on the pathway, but we are moving further along the pathway. But what we require is acceleration. And what has been set up through the TAPSEC, especially within the context of the work that was done with the Regional Energy Policy and Regulation Desk, with the support to the CCRE, with work which has been done on the REVs, the building codes, the Regional Energy Efficiency Strategy, and so on, actually is a very good place to really move and accelerate. If we recall a couple of things, and not meaning to take up too much time, in 2013, when the energy policy was established, the understanding then became we need a roadmap and strategy. Then we determined that we also need an agency to drive the roadmap and strategy, which is why in 2014 we started establishing the CCRE, because we recognized that there was need for an implementation entity to drive the implementation of policies. So in 2013, think about it, 2013 policy and strategy was established. 2014, the work to establish the center started. They are not, they are linked, they are not there. It's not that by coincidence this happened. And within that context, when we established the TAPSEC as a program, and at the time the TAPSEC was driven largely from the Secretariat in terms of the initial establishment, and then we brought the GIZ in to support us with the implementation. The understanding was the TAPSEC was supposed to drive implementation of the policy and the strategy as far as it could. And so far what we have found is that quite a bit have been driven in respect to setting up elements that can help to anchor the movement of the implementation thereof. Because policies and strategies without implementability and implementation don't make sense. You do policies that then, you frame policies to develop strategies, and then those actions from the strategies are to be implemented. And what we expect is a feedback loop where the actions that are implemented help now to further update strategies, and those strategies will reformulate aspects of the policies. And what the TAPSEC has been able to do is to be able to give tools through which we have been able to dig down into aspects and elements of the policy, dig down into elements of the strategy. The REASE is a sub-strategy of the CSERMs, which is the Sustainable Energy Roadmap and Strategy. The REVs is a sub-policy of a sub-strategy of the CSERMs. So we have been able to dig down and bring out these sub-strategies of a strategy. We have the building code and MEPs that are emerging and emanating from the policy. So there are things that have moved. And how we now translate those regional actions that have moved into more detailed national action is something that we have to work on. I still maintain that the regional institutions have a role to play of creating a sustainable basis through which we can continually upgrade and support the implementation. We need intelligent implementation, intelligent upgrading, and intelligent formulation. And as long as we continue on a path of continually upgrading and implementing, we will make progress. But the TAPSEC has really left us on a good foundation where we actually are much better off than we were in 2016 when the financing agreement between the CARIFORUM Directorate and EU was signed.
Thank you, Dr. Gardner. Ambassador Challenger.
Yeah, I think that, as you said, there will always be differences in the pace of among countries. I think that for us, what we've seen with this particular project is that the process is very important, the strength of the process. And by process here, I mean not only the way it was implemented, but also the quality of the consultants. And I heard the same thing from my colleague from St. Lucia. We had a really strong, very capable team, and very sensitive to the realities on the ground, very strong technically, but also very savvy of what is possible. So I think that combination is very important if you were to achieve that type of goal. So I think, yes, there is possibilities, but it has to be tailored to each country. Each country is different. But again, I think that the critical factor is the quality of the process, and as I said, the process in the wider sense of the word.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ambassador Challenger. Ms. Carrasco.
Thank you, Sparkle. I think that the interventions from TAPSEC have been much needed in terms of we really needed a catalyst to push things along. And speaking about, updating policies, Dr. Gardner spoke about this earlier. SICRI is actually supporting St. Lucia right now in updating our IRP, which was done in 2018. So we're now moving to an IRP. In terms of the work that was done with the NUC, we're seeing on the ground the benefits. We have done more on what we started with TAPSEC. So I think we needed this to help things move along further. And my hope is that it will help us face the headwinds that are coming with the fuel prices and everything that our region cannot really deal with at the moment.
Thank you, Ms. Carrasco. Mr. De La Rosa.
Yeah, thank you, Sparker. I don't want to be repetitive for the similarities that are right now, but I will resume with a comment that I did to Simon before this panel that I said we need a TAPSEC too. So, but I can say we have a lack of regulation right now. We have a need for capacity buildings and for prepare our technician in all the sector, electrical sector in the Dominican Republic to be prepared for the technology and for the fact that this will come. So I think we will continue with the same line. We are very let's say anxious for continuing with this type of collaboration and projects. So. And I think we are in the good way and good matter for continue this, and to hope that this kind of project continued working together with all the CARICOM and the Dominican Republic.
Thank you, Mr. De La Rosa and Ms. Hilaire.
The TAPSEC RQI intervention has been impactful. At the regional level, we created tools in the form of a situation analysis for each country that will assist them in identifying gaps so that they can become, and addressing those gaps to become implementation ready for the CREEBC, the Energy Efficiency Building Codes, and our Energy Efficiency Labeling Scheme. We've also sought to build capacity in terms of training for compliance and conformance of the building codes, as well as utilization of the codes by industry practitioners. We have translated the codes from English to French to assist Haiti in adoption of the codes. We have also purchased equipment to assist one of our regional labs to get accreditation. as well as materials and tools in terms of procedures, how to, so that they can advance the implementation of the labeling scheme. So I think with the intervention, it has taken us one step closer to that full implementation that we want our buildings to be energy efficient, that we want our appliances that are being imported into the region to be energy efficient. We want our buildings to be populated by energy efficient appliances. It has taken us one step closer, which fits into the energy transition goals.
Thank you very much. And this brings us to the end of the first panel discussion. I'd like to thank all of my distinguished panelists for their interventions today, and to you, the audience, thanks so much for your engagement, for your attention. It's certainly appreciated. And I hand over to the Master of Ceremonies.
I'm sorry, Sparkle. I want to, my 15 seconds of fame, I want to use it to name the Minister of Energy and Mines of the Dominican Republic, the Vice Minister Alfonso Rodriguez, and myself, that I have been witness of how great the collaboration of TAPSEC for the Minister of Energy and Mines has been. And in the next week, we will put in the Minister website in details of the result from the collaboration that TAPSEC has been done for us. So thank you very much, and we appreciate the work of the TAPSEC team have been done. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. De La Rosa.
I think you will agree with me that it's been an intriguing and informative morning session. And indeed, I'd like to acknowledge each panelist and the moderator for her contributions to the subject, reformulating the policy and regulations landscape of the Caribbean. We've come to the morning break, which will last for 15 minutes. And during this time, you're invited to go to the outside terrace. And in that time, however, the 15 minutes, I'd like to invite the next session of panelists just to come to the stage so that they can be prepared for the session which will follow. And that session will be dealing with the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Qualities. So, ladies and gentlemen, your 15-minute break, and panelists, please join us on the stage. I thank you.